Hi guys, we are discussing the book Reclaiming Hindu Temples by Dr. Chandni Sengupta, and in this video we get into contextualizing the Arab conquest in the chapter called Deadly Destruction of Sindh and Multan. The governor of Iraq, Al-Hallaj ibn Yusuf, commanded Muhammad bin Qasim to raid Sindh during the reign of Umayyad Caliph Al-Walid I. Muhammad bin Qasim, the genocidal Arab marauder, stationed his army at Makran, the coastal region of Balochistan, and waited for a few days before he entered Sindh. He raided Debal, Nerun, Sewan, Dahir, Brahmanabad, and finally Multan. Mass genocide ensued in the city of Debal, which was the first to be sacked. Kitab Futu al-Buldan has given a vivid description of destruction and mass slaughter. Now, this is a quote directly from the primary source called Kitab Futu al-Buldan 218. The city was thus conquered by force, and Muhammad kept up the slaughter of the inhabitants for 3 days. The occupation of Sindh led to the dominance of the Arabs in the region for 3 centuries, which later ended with the annexation of the region by Ghaznavid Turks in the 11th century. Many historians have written about the Arab conquest of Sindh. On one end of the spectrum were those historians who argued that Muhammad bin Qasim was motivated by religious considerations and that the Arab conquest was in essence a quote-unquote jihad against the infidels. On the other end of the spectrum were those historians who either glorified the invasion or downplayed it, but did not consider it to be a religious act. As far as the first category of historians are concerned, A.L. Srivastava made an important intervention regarding the religious motives of the Arabs. Srivastava pointed out that, quote, the principal source of inspiration for the Arabs was their religious fervor, which made them believe that they had been sent by God to destroy the non-Muslims or Kafirs, end quote. According to Murray Thurston Titus, the Arabs had a single religious motive of, quote, striking a blow at idolatry and polytheism and of establishing Islam, end quote. Murray T. Titus on page 10. Historians such as Tarachand and Ishwari Prasad adopted a sympathetic stance about the Arab conquest. According to the latter, quote, the story of Muhammad bin Qasim's invasion of Sindh is one of the romances of history, end quote. Historians have also engaged in a debate over the impact of the Arab conquest. According to some, the conquest was a quote-unquote mere episode and proved to be an unimpactful event, while according to others, it had far-reaching consequences. E.B. Havel focused on the cultural implications of the conquest and opined that, culturally, the Arab conquest ushered in a new era. The conquest introduced the people of the Arabian Peninsula to the people of Bharat, and according to Havel, the interaction between the Arabs and the people of Sindh produced a remarkable cultural synthesis, quote-unquote. The contribution of the culturally rustic Arab nomads to the cultural efflorescence of a region which had been part of a great civilization is debatable, as the Arabs did not bring with them any traces of a high culture or superior art or language. So what the fuck was the synthesis that was going on? Synthesis means you bring something to the table, I bring something to the table. What were they bringing from the desert? An analysis of the consequences of this conquest leads to 3 main conclusions. Firstly, the Arab conquest opened the northwestern part of Bharat to future Islamic conquests, which had a devastating impact on the political, socio-cultural and economic fabric of our country. Secondly, the Arabs introduced an alien religion in a region that was predominantly Hindu and Buddhist. The religious implications of the Arab conquest were significant. The invading Arabs imposed Islam in the region, and in their quest to spread their faith and humiliate the Kafirs, they destroyed numerous Hindu and Buddhist temples of worship in Sindh and Multan. Chachnama, also known as Tarikh-e-Hind wa Sindh in Arabic, is replete with examples of death and destruction that was ushered in by the Arab conquest. Chachnama is an account of the reign of Chach of Aror, who was the Maharaja of Sindh in the 7th century. The work was originally composed in Arabic but later translated into Persian by Muhammad Ali bin Hamid bin Abu Bakr Kufi. The author although a sympathizer of the Islamic invasion, documented some significant episodes of idolatry and temple desecration carried out by the Arab invaders. Kitab Futul Buldan, written by Abbas Ahmed ibn Jabir al-Baladhuri, is another text which provides ample evidence of killing of non-Muslims and temple destruction during the Arab conquest of Sindh. There are many other Arabic works that outline the story of death and destruction which became a prominent feature during the Arab conquest. The written sources as well as archaeological evidence points to the countless Hindu and Buddhist religious buildings that were destroyed by Muhammad bin Qasim and his invading army. Historian Upendra Thakur, in his book titled Sindhi Culture, has described the consequences of the Arab conquest of Sindh, quote, "But the Arab invasion brought in wave after wave of foreign hordes, the Tartars, the Afghans and the Tarkhans, the Mughals, the Baloch, as if the whole world fell upon the country from the west or through the Punjab, and the subsequent history of the Sindh Hindus is therefore nothing but a tale of woe of their degradation, conversion and surveillance." Thakur writes 15 to 16 pages in that book, end quote. According to Prakash Bharadwaj, quote, "The Sindhis ruled Sindh till they were defeated and conquered by the Arabs in the 8th century, and from that time onwards they have played the role of refugees." End quote. The conquest of Sindh was therefore undoubtedly a pursuit of plunder and proselytism. The main motive behind the Arab conquests was spreading what they called, quote unquote, the true faith in the, quote unquote, land of the Kafir.